Or how come they work so similar, both in the Mafia and official Western government organizations? Well, because it's one and the same gang called Octagon of the Nazi Templars, and they are based in the Alps. And forget about the Israeli Mossad in all this, who are the most clumsy secret service in the world, creating one global scandal after the other because of their unprofessional clumsiness. Here about the assassination attempt on Khaled Mashal, and here about the assassination attempt. They tried to put some in his left ear. They put a poison in his ear with a spray. And the picture you saw before, there was in that hotel in the Arab Emirates. It also went over the entire globe in all newspapers, and there's a lot more. And this shouldn't happen with a intelligence service. The Mossad is only considered the best in the world because they accumulate the best human intel, human intelligence information about anything they need or need not to know, because of the impressive backup space of the jaywalker community all over the world, providing the best human intel, the best humans. And a tremendous quantity of jaywalkers offering safe houses in such high numbers that every operator has his own safe house, which of course minimizes local attention drawn in and eventual detection in the end. But when it comes to Mossad operations, they're as clumsy as 10 rabbis trying to circumcise a camel or two, as we used to say. From my own experience, the Royal Military Intelligence, including Team 5, Detachment 6 and the Increment, are the most professional in the business. You don't see them, you don't hear them, they don't leave traces, as if they don't even exist. An absolute shadowy organization of mostly noblemen at the top and in the field, who receive their final orders in the end from the Swiss Octagon through an intricate network of Freemasons and Nazi Templars. So here you see it's royal, their crest, the badge, and it has red here for the Red House and white for the White House of Pharaoh, the Per Tasser and the Per Het. So these royals, they come out of these ones from Egypt, who became the royals, and here on top you see the Knights Templars. And so well, you see these ones here. You all know about that. It almost, the SIS, it almost sounds like ISIS, eh? And you know, General Sir is from Sar, meaning a king, a pharaoh. It's like a mob of royal gangsters, they are. So when President John F. Kennedy wanted to stop the CIA from importing drugs from South America, drugs from Vietnam and Laos into the US, and stop the CIA from working together with the Mafia, then JFK became a priority on Octagon's death list. Just as when I, Sean Hross, criticized another branch of the Octagon crime syndicate by making documentaries and writing in international newspapers about the Swiss Nazi Templar banks, I too moved up fairly high on Octagon's death list and even had Swiss Nazi cops shoot at me in the forest. So this video is on this channel here, and here's the title. Of course, Oliver Stone's video JFK from 1991 was meant to put you on a wrong lead. Well, what else can you expect from government's Hollywood and their government agenda? Yes, okay, the Mafia were involved in the hit, as they're one and the same thing belonging to the Octagon, which was already getting known in books written after JFK's murder. So nothing new really. So the government's Hollywood state's propaganda had to keep it that way before people were going to dig any deeper by putting a Hollywood final seal on the case through that JFK movie. I already made documentaries about the Swiss involvement in the JFK murder 10 years ago, but Swissy made YouTube take them off, and after 2 extensive Swiss house searches I don't have them anymore either, as the Swiss Nazi police stole all my hard disks, memory sticks, CDs, computers, cameras and SD cards. President Kennedy knew about the enemy within, and that the CIA, the cocaine import agency, only pretended to fight drugs, and in reality only eliminated the competition. So Kennedy put FBI agents in the Pentagon in a so-called TDY program for temporary duty yonder, like Agent Tom O'Loughlin being a SUBSTACK agent for SACSA, S-A-C-S-A, Special Assistant for Counterintelligence and Special Activities. So I read it for you because this is important. SACSA, to direct special operations in the Kennedy administration, the Joint Chiefs of Staff created a new organization headed by a general officer with the title Special Assistant for Counterintelligence and Special Activities, SACSA. Colonel Fletcher Prouty of the Air Force Special Operation Command was tasked with forming the new organization. The Kennedy administration wanted to have a new team, so General Ed Lansdale, a CIA man who had run special operations since the CIA-sponsored Hawk Rebellion in the Philippines, was passed over. The new SACSA official was to have control over all special operations, including those of the CIA, which was ordered to turn its special operation files over to the Joint Chiefs. To staff the office, an operations planner was needed, someone who was familiar with intelligence and special operations, but not a CIA man. Moreover, Kennedy needed someone who would be respected by all the services and intelligence agencies for honesty. So this is why they sent the FBI SACSA man in doing the TDY, the officer, the special agent, Tom O'Loughlin. So the Octagon killed Kennedy's man, Tom O'Loughlin, at the young age of 51 years only. Poisoned in or around the Pentagon, quickly torn apart by a strategical cancer, so to say, at the age of 51. And here's the FBI, here Tom with J. Edgar Hoover, or Gay Edgar Hoover, the director of the FBI. And you all know now, through my videos, that he was from the Swiss Hoover, looking exactly like President Herbert Hoover, also from the Hoover family. So, no luck, eh? FBI Director J. Edgar Hoover, also called Gay Edgar Hoover, real name Hoover, from Switzerland, and US President Herbert Hoover, real name Hoover, from Switzerland, are from the very same Swiss Nazi Templar bloodline, which you can see in the picture comparison of this video here on my channel G.I.U.R.E.H. And they were both members of the Swiss Octagon from the Alps, bringing havoc to the US, going for all key positions and stabbing the American people in the back. And you can see how they are lookalikes, these two here. This is J. Edgar Hoover, the same brachycephalic broadheads, and here Herbert Hoover. And these cephalic skull forms are not European. Europeans have long heads, which you can see in my video about Perset. And here's the title. And here a video I made 10 years ago about the Swiss involvement in the Kennedy assassination. And while you're at it, watch this video here, watch it too. How Swissy had the army shoot and kill unarmed US war veterans. So here's the title. The best is to copy the title and then punch it in the search bar here in the channel. So you better download them, and I'll try to put the links in the description for you. Agent O'Loughlin's nickname was Mr. Hammer, indicating the man's formidable capacities and therefore needed to be terminated without further delay before the Hammer could do more damage to Octagon's business model, leading from the jungle's opium forests of Southeast Asia to the Octagon's motherland in the Alps, where all the money is stashed, and where Alan Dulles, the very first CIA director, had made many worthwhile Nazi contacts during the war. That's why the paperclip here in the picture, replacing the stars that once were. And those Nazis were all on drugs, like Hitler and Giureh, being hooked on cocaine, speed, and whatnot. From the top all the way down to the ordinary German soldiers, all carrying a tube of speed tablets called Pervitin for the hard moments, like shooting a bunch of children and their mothers in a mass grave and then shovel a few tons of sand over it. In these cases, Pervitin was required, not really like Popeye opening a can of spinach. Hi Hitler! This is the war of the mind, what I was telling you about. And because the Nazis won the war right after the Nazi victory of World War II and taking over the US through the paperclip, the drug wars started to mess up our children's brains in the war of the mind, just as the actual drug war being forced upon humanity in Pharaoh's bug war to take control over our minds. Hi Hitler, guys. Have fun now. Per, in the word Pervitin, means a house in Pharaonic Demotic, like a royal house or bloodline, indicating the ones behind it, as usual. In 1971, when Special Agent O'Loughlin died, murdered by people who smiled in his face, he hadn't watched any YouTube yet, and how his FBI director, J. Edgar Hoover, real name was Huber, a Swiss American, who also was a member of the notorious Octagon, wanting Special Agent O'Loughlin dead. O'Loughlin's code name in the Sexa detachment was Macduff, just as you can see here on this channel name, Macduff Lives. So years, and in fact decennia later, O'Loughlin's son, John O'Loughlin, opened up a YouTube channel by the name of Macduff Lives, and we did an interview there last month on December 7th, 2021. It says interview, there we are, interview with me, and the title is a little bit longer. 1 month ago. But as I just had contracted the Wu flu, I was still recovering, and in the interview searching for the words in my empty mind due to the brain fog provoked by Pharaoh's bug war. I'm fine again now, by just recovering the natural way in this huge winter solstice blood ritual starting on December 21st, 2019, winter solstice. Watch this film, the biggest winter solstice blood ritual ever, on the same channel. Here, John wrote me this in his book entitled Macduff Lives, which he had sent me to Sean Hross with deep respect and gratitude, John O'Loughlin. And don't you think that the Chinese did it concerning the spread and creation of the Wu flu pharaonic bug? As to my knowledge of modern history, nowhere in history the Chinese applied biological warfare against human beings. But there is another country doing this all the time. America. Like the Phoenix program to destroy the Vietnamese people's traditional way of life and culture and force the villagers into strategic hamlets. The murder of indigenous leaders, the computerized war in which people were killed by assassination squads. And look here, it says Phoenix program. Phoenix. Yeah, look, there's the official US badge with the Phoenix and Yachin and Boaz. Well, I already told you what Phoenix is a reference to, eh? It says Pung Huang. No idea what that means. The US Phoenix program is America's equivalent of the Nazi Operation Reinhardt, murdering the jaywalkers. Well, no wonder when you consider that all the paperclip Nazis disappeared into the US in 1945, enabling their worldwide extermination wars by the Swiss Nazi Templar Octagon. Yeah, Operation Reinhardt in Wikipedia. Yeah, another Phoenix program. It's all related to the Knights Templars. Phoenix. And of course the Phoenix program using Agent Orange by Monsanto, killing the Vietnamese by the millions and still dying today of massive cancer. As Agent Orange is still in the drinking water. And here it says, an estimated 150,000 children in Vietnam, they were born with serious birth effects. Well, the Phoenix makes sure that the Knights Templars, that they rise again, and all the rest will never rise again. Like 150,000 children will not rise again like a Phoenix. These Vietnamese children will never fly again as a Phoenix. They're grounded forever. They will not be happy children. This is the present of America. They're pages after pages after pages. So China doesn't do this. It's America doing this. Don't believe the Western newspapers. Well, I hope the Chinese will rescue us from all this misery. I hope the Russians will clean it all up. And all this gender bender stuff and killing the families and then I hope the Chinese and the Russians will come. I dearly do hope so. Look at this, people. Look at this. Chinese don't do this. Forget it. It's America. And they do it over and over and over again. Yeah, see, the children of Agent Orange. I'll give you all the proofs. I like facts. So, you know, who is behind the bug war, eh? From Wuhan. The Chinese? Oh, forget it. Oh, forget it. You can see the same children in Iraq now and in Afghanistan because of depleted uranium. America did it. Wakey, wakey. John F. Kennedy wanted to stop all these atrocities and stop the Phoenix program, and had to pay the ultimate price for his attempts. And so did SEXA agent Tom O'Loughlin. And he said, those who make peaceful revolution impossible will make violent revolution inevitable. Do you understand this? Who are the ones who make peaceful revolution impossible? I mean, look at Kazakhstan at the moment. I'm sure the people wanted a peaceful revolution, but the ones in power didn't want this. So because they want to have a violent revolution, ordo apkao. So they moved it this way. They killed a couple of protesters, and this is the way they do it. They don't want peaceful revolutions. The elite, they don't want change. They don't want us to be happy. No, they want to kill us. This guy, he understood it. It's a good one. We could use this guy on YouTube. This guy would have been the best YouTuber or info warrior of all. The Phoenix, of course, as in the Vietnam Phoenix program of the CIA and the US, is of course again a reference to ancient Egypt and the Knights Templars, who rose again out of the fire of the French king and resurrected in Swaziland. The Phoenix program, a typical name chosen by the Octagon. And in the middle of all this was Mr. Hammer, special agent of the FBI and Kennedy's man to smash the CIA, who got poisoned through the CIA's special virus cancer program to eliminate people with silent weapons for silent wars. Easily eating up a man like Mr. Hammer, Tom O'Loughlin, from the inside, until his body resigned at the age of 51, a tree of a man who would never resign any assignment. You just don't touch Octagon's money business like the CIA's Air America, bringing in tons of drugs into the US and into the entire Western world. Just another multinational Knights Templar business in collaboration with the Mafia, the CIA, Swaziland, Nazis, etc. So here you see the statistics, the opium cultivation in Afghanistan from 1994 to 2014. So that's 20 years in hectares. And this here, I guess it's in kilos. From 1994, 71,000 kilos. That's 71 tons. And here it's rising and it's rising. Here it's in 2014, more than 200 tons of opium or heroin. And but why here in 2001, when the Taliban were ruling, only 8 tons? You know. So, well, that's because the Taliban forbid opium in Afghanistan and the use of drugs. Because these guys, they said, well, we are real Muslims, and this is not very Islamic, the drugs. So they forbid it. And this was the reason, one of the reasons, but the main reason for NATO and the CIA and the Octagon and the Mafia, to invade Afghanistan, all under pretext of the World Trade Center and whatnot. You can see it, all statistics, they all show this, not only here, they all show the same columns. And here you can see American soldiers, they're protecting the opium trade, patrolled by US NATO forces, Afghanistan's freedom and democracy, opium fields supply 90% of the world's heroin. So if you look at 2020, the columns are probably like here. And so this is what's happening. It's all about business, geostrategical wars. And don't believe the newspapers. No, it's all a lie. Therefore, Swaziland is the center of drugs in Europe, where I personally saw people coming from everywhere into Switzerland to get their dose. I mean, Swaziland is the center of everything. It's the diplomatic center, it's the center of money, it's the center of all the NGOs. So why wouldn't be the center of drugs? And drugs is money, because it's the base of it all. And look at it, Zurich, second place. This is about the cocaine in the wastewater in European cities. And there's even 2 cities here, Geneva, also a lot, and London a lot less, and then there are the other European cities here in this statistics. And just look at this here, Amsterdam and Zurich. There is a reason that Amsterdam is at the first place, and this reason is connected to Swaziland, and I tell you why. Well, you would say, okay, Amsterdam, it's a port, that's where it all comes in. But here you see London, you see part of it, it's 700, so it's a lot less than here. There is a reason. This Amsterdam statistics is connected to Swaziland, and I'm going to show you how. Because it all comes from Swaziland. Because they're all corrupted. The police is corrupted. They're gangsters. They lie. They kill people. It's octagon. And the Swiss, of course, use the ancient Templar waterway of the Rhine to transport the drugs from Basel to Rotterdam. So Pharaoh's media can say that drugs come in through the port of Rotterdam, which is a thing, that's easily believed. Because of the laws of silence around Switzerland, there shouldn't be any connection at all to Switzerland. It always has to be avoided. And already the Romans, they used this waterway, and the kings and the queens, and of course the Knights Templars. So they got Rhine ships. You see, here's Basel, here's Switzerland. Basel, it's got flowing in here in Zurich and Basel. And it goes by ship. It goes here to Rotterdam, one of the biggest ports in the world. And they can say, okay, that's where it comes from. It always has to be done like this, so there won't be any talk about Swaziland. And I mean, then you can ask yourself, here is an even bigger port, or just as big. It's the biggest port of France. It's called Le Havre, H-A-V-R-E. The river also brings it straight to Paris. And so, that would be very important. But why aren't any drugs here in Le Havre? Why all here? Well, the reason is this: the Rhine River. That's how they do it. And of course, the Freemasons, they got it all protected, and the police in their hands. So nobody is ever going to control this here. The Rhine ships, all the tons, they're all coming in here like this. It's the biggest river in Europe, the Rhine, and it floats from Basel to Rotterdam. And in fact, this is interesting, with satellites, they could see, here's the Thames somewhere, or here, and underneath the North Sea, you can still see how the Thames, or the Rhine is in fact the Thames, how it went in older times, like here, where the sea is, and it's still visible. It's quite interesting. So this is a Templar's way to get the drugs by the octagon from the neutral Omer-Ta laws of silence Swaziland into Rotterdam. And of course the royal house of Orange, they're deep into Nazism and drugs and whatever, you name it. They had the Prince of Darkness. It's the richest family in the world, the House of Orange. And they had the Prince of Darkness, who founded the Bilderbergers, which is the highest Freemason group. And the Rhine River, this is the secret. I made these short videos about it, showing here in Switzerland. It's about 10 years ago. So this one here and this one. I'll put the links in the description for you. No, not the state of China spreads viruses, nor does it trade drugs, but America does, with its corrupted government, dealing drugs, spreads viruses, or uses depleted uranium in the Muslim world, killing Afghans, Iraqis, Libyans, Syrians, Bosnians, and even Serbs, by the millions dying of cancer because of the depleted uranium. Just like Agent Orange in Vietnam. It says Agent Orange in Wikipedia. A lot of nice pictures. There's some more pictures. It's amazing. Terrible. Even using helicopters, look at that. So in here you can see how Monsanto, it even killed the veterans. US government, they even kill their own people. And here it says class action lawsuit, that several lawsuits have been filed against the companies which produced Agent Orange. Among them Dow Chemical, Diamond, Shamrock, and look at this, Monsanto is also in it. So Monsanto's best known product is Roundup, a glyphosate based herbicide developed in the 1970s. And well, the glyphosate, well, it creates cancer, at least. There they are, Monsanto. How lovely, they got a plant in their logo. And apparently before that, the Agent Orange, it was invented by Bayer. And Bayer became at a certain moment IG Farben, who produced the Zyklon B.
This is the infant, which is really nothing but a gift of the democracy that the United States has installed in Afghanistan. This is the horrific deformity from which thousands and thousands of Afghans will be dying from, and generations upon generations of Afghans will be suffering from. This is the crime that deserves nothing but a total justice, and total justice is nothing but the destruction and defamation of those who have committed this. This is the tragedy and travesty of Afghanistan, and this is the product of so-called democracy. Nothing but a horrific deformity.
No. China doesn't do these things, but America does, over and over again. all over the world, throughout the entire history of this new world order Freemason state called USA. The US biological warfare started on Native Americans when on May 24th, 1763, in order to crush the Pontiac uprising, the US sent blankets infected by smallpox to kill the Indians and their children, just as the US recently did in the Muslim world and in Korea and in Vietnam. Be very careful when the US comes with hearts and minds and give you something. No, no, no. China doesn't do these things. But the US does, using weapons of mass destruction like viruses, Agent Orange, depleted uranium, poisoning their own FBI agents, you name it. Forget about Wu Flu, China. The Chinese don't do this. And neither their bets on the Chinese market. The idea to use the infected blanket biological warfare to clean the US from their indigenous population came from a Swissie, colonel in the US Army, former Swiss mercenary in service for the Dutch and British Royals, and born in Hross, Switzerland, 1719, by the name of Henri-Louis Bouquet, without any doubt a member of the Templars Octagon. So here he is. Charming chap, isn't he? A Swissie. And a lot of red for the old world order. A little bit of white. This is where it started, the Red House of Pharaoh, and this is the New World Order, the horizontal rule. There's nothing without a coincidence with these guys, huh? So I'll read it for you. So he was born here in the Swiss Confederacy, and allegiance, Dutch Republic, Kingdom of Sardinia, Sar. You remember the Shards, the Chardin, and Great Britain. It says he was a colonel. There, he was a colonel. Fort Pitt. So Henri-Louis Bouquet, generally known as Henry Bouquet, and he was born in 1719, died 1765. Was a Swiss mercenary who rose to the prominence in British service during the French and Indian War and Pontiac's War. Bouquet is best known for his victory over a Native American force at the Battle of Bushy Run, lifting the siege of Fort Pitt during Pontiac's War. During the conflict, Bouquet gained lasting infamy, and there he is again with his lasting infamy, with his biological warfare and genocide, in exchange of letters with his commanding officer Amherst, who suggested a form of biological warfare in the use of blankets infected with smallpox, which were to be distributed to the Native Americans. Despite this indictment, historians have praised Bouquet for, etc. And it was actually Bouquet who came with the idea, which I'll show you later, because the letters are still there. Bouquet was born into a moderately wealthy family in Hross, in Switzerland. There's Hross. Now look at the castle, eh? And here's the Swiss Confederacy. And the oldest of 7 brothers, the son of a Swiss roadhouse owner and his well-to-do wife, he entered military service at the age of 17. Like many military officers of his day, Bouquet traveled between countries serving as a professional soldier. This is all because of the Knights Templars. All the mercenaries in Europe killing Europeans, they're all Swiss, and this is all commanded by the Knights Templars. He began his military career in the army of the Dutch Republic. There you go, 1748. Well, that's exactly this, because after the 30-Year War, when 150,000 Swiss mercenaries took up service for the Dutch king, and that's exactly this area, and who became the Dutch police. And I already showed you that in a video somewhere. I don't know where it is. On my channel Gatse, or maybe it was on my channel Giureh. And later he was in the service of the Kingdom of Sardinia. There's the word Sar. And in 1748 he was again in Dutch service as a lieutenant colonel of the Swiss Guards. And here's about the Pontiac's War. A month later, in a series of letters between Bouquet and his commander, General Geoffrey Amherst, a baron, it says a baron, with a big octagon on his chest, again red and white. The idea of using smallpox blankets, so biological warfare. Don't you think the Chinese did it? And all these people, the Swissy and the general in America, all became American citizens, And then their children in the CIA, and it goes on and it goes on and it goes on. And I'll show you in a minute, the idea was Swiss. Again, as always. They're always in it somewhere. Believe me, people. And you can see, again, the Swiss Templars here working together with the nobility. Like the Second World War, it's always the same. So, in a letter from June 29th, 1763, the Swissy Merc, the mercenary, Colonel Henri Bouquet, suggested the British Commander-in-Chief of North America, the first Baron Geoffrey Amherst, that he had a splendid idea in order to get rid of some 100 million Indians once and for all, using biological warfare, just as they're using that on the entire human race right now in 2022. Then the English Baron wrote back, "Oh, my dear chap from Swaziland, what a splendid idea. You go do that, my dear Swiss Colonel Bouquet." So here you see the Baron of Amherst. It's a lot of red and white, a lot of red, because that's where they come from, the red house of Pharaoh, the Pertasser. And then it has a little bit of white, where we are now. It has an octagon with red and white. And look at the long nose, these aristocrats. Now you don't see that so much anymore, because they've been so mixed. But in these days, on the old pictures, they got all these long pharaonic noses. So, the big nose, as people say, it's not the jaywalkers. This is the typical they're long noses. And they're nosy as well, putting their long noses into our affairs, eh? And, I mean, this is not European, these long noses. And here it says, Amherst's legacy is controversial due to his expressed desire to exterminate the race of indigenous people during the Pontiac's War, and his advocacy of biological warfare in the form of gifting blankets infected with smallpox as a weapon. And so he was the Commander-in-Chief of North America, the Crown Governor of Virginia. He was serving under the Second George and the Third George. You remember what I told you about the state of Georgia and the St. George Guidestones, the governor of New France. So he was a page to the Duke of Dorset. Set Dorset. Set is the lord of the underworld. It's not a coincidence, all these pharaonic syllables in it. Yeah, the Indian War in North America. Yeah, I'll read it for you. A month later, the use of smallpox blankets was discussed by Amherst himself in letters to Colonel Henri Bouquet, Amherst, having learned that smallpox had broken out, well, he learned it because of Colonel Bouquet. It's the other way around, which I'll show you that in a minute through the letters. Had broken out amongst the garrison at Fort Pitt. And so he wrote to Colonel Bouquet, could it not be contrived to send the smallpox among the disaffected tribes of Indians? We must on this occasion use every stratagem in our power to reduce them. Bouquet, who was already marching to relieve Fort Pitt, agreed with this suggestion in a postscript where he responded to Amherst just days later on July 13, 1763. I will try to inoculate the Indians by means of blankets that may fall in their hands, taking care, however, not to get the disease myself, as it is pity to oppose good men against them. I wish we could make use of the Spaniards' method and hunt them with English dogs, supported by rangers and some light horse, who would, I think, effectively extirpate or remove that vermin. In response, also in postscript, Amherst replied, you will do that. You will do well to try to inoculate the Indians by means of blankets, as well as to try every other method that I can serve to extirpate this execrable race. I should be very glad your scheme for hunting them down with dogs could take effect. But England is at too great a distance to think of that at present. Well, this is what they did, working together, the nobility and the Swiss Templars. It's always the same, and it's still going on like this, There you are, Octagon. Biological warfare. And these people and their descendants, they became American citizens, Swiss and the nobility ruling America. So they still have the letter. Yeah, it says later, Derrico found a letter indicating Amherst was keen on the idea. So they have the letters. They still have the letters are still there by the Baron Amherst and by the Swiss mercenary colonel. And Errico, Peter Errico, is a professor at the Massachusetts University. I'll read it for you. Inoculate the Indians. Derrico did find evidence of a plot to infect indigenous people. In fact, the name Derrico, it's also the nobility, in fact. De Errico. Might be of French origin or Italian. Everything with de, it's nobility. It's like von in German. So the first letter was from a Swiss mercenary called Henri Bouquet, who suggested giving out smallpox-infected blankets to inoculate the Indians. The very first letter, it gave the idea, the Swiss idea, to genocide the American Indians with smallpox. So it was a Swiss idea indeed. Later, Derrico found a letter indicating Amherst was keen on the idea. There was from Amherst himself to Bouquet saying this is a good idea to spread smallpox. Just be careful you don't get it yourself, said Derrico. So he actually says it was a good idea, the Baron. This is what he said. You will do well to try to inoculate the Indians by means of blankets, as well as to try every other method that can serve to extirpate this execrable race. By Field Marshal Geoffrey Amherst, the first Baron Amherst. I shall be very glad your scheme for hunting them down by dogs take effect. But England is at too great a distance to think of that at present. Well, I know what it is, in Switzerland to be hunted down by them dogs there, That's what they did with me, Derrico wrote in his study, of Amherst that none of these other letters show a deranged mind or an obsession with cruelty. Amherst's venom was only directed at indigenous peoples, he added. No, so where's the problem, you know? Only some indigenous people, I mean, who cares, yeah? So this is the dangerous part, actually, because these people look so normal and so neutral and so clean, you know, the Swiss, the nobility. They've never done anything wrong, haven't they? Have they now, eh? Like Dr. Mengele, you know. He looks so normal, a doctor, an intelligent man. He even did his PhD, a physician. You think, oh, he helps people, he looks nice, he doesn't look like aggressive, and he acts normal, you know, like all serial killers do, right? You know? These are serial killers, these are psychopaths, you know. You don't see it, you know. They're neutral, they hide amongst us, and then they kill us all when the moment is right for it, huh? That's the dangerous thing about it, you know. So, and here in the Wikipedia about Geoffrey Amherst, the first Baron of Amherst, if I scroll down here into the, there's another picture of him. He even found himself a wife. Here, legacy. Here, look, there's so many places called after him. Amherstburg in Ontario, the General Amherst High School in Ontario. Yeah, Amherst in Massachusetts. Oh, that's why the professor talked about it. The whole university is called Amherst. Oh, he's a big hero then, eh? Did a lot of good things, eh? University of Massachusetts. There's even an Indian in it. Oh, they're so proud of it. Hampshire College in Amherst, Massachusetts. So there's a town called Amherst. They were so glad with this guy, eh? Amherst College, also in Massachusetts. Amherst in New Hampshire. Here another in Nova Scotia. Amherst. Amherst, New York. A town in state of New York. Amherst County in Virginia. So this is why the in 2008 a Micmac spiritual leader, John Joe Sark, so an Indian, called the name of Fort Amherst Park of Prince Edward Island a terrible blotch on Canada, and said to have a place named after General Amherst would be probably like having a square in Jerusalem named after Adolf Hitler. It's disgusting. And Sark raised his concerns again in 2016 to a letter to the Canadian government, and the Micmac historian Daniel Paul, who referred to Amherst as motivated by white supremacist beliefs. And this is the sad thing about it, you know. It's the nobility, it's Swiss, and the whole white race, as usual, gets blamed of it, you know, everything. Because people don't understand. It's Pharaoh, it's the Knights Templars, you know, and they did the same with the white people, with us. In the Middle Ages, we were the white race. We were slaves in a feudal system, and we still are. So it's so easy to say, you know, like the white people did it, or the jaywalkers did it, you know. Or, it's so easy like this, but it goes so far, much deeper. So I mean, what's the use of the Indian medicine man and all these wizards if they can't even tell you what's really going on, eh? I mean, don't listen to the medicine man, I would say, eh? Just listen to homie Hross. Okay. The Swiss idea worked out really well, and 100 million Indians got exterminated. Just like the Swiss Judenfrei of the Nazis, or free of humans on the entire globe, coming up very soon in the near future. So this metal plate was screwed on every wall, in every town or village that was liberated from the jaywalkers when the last single one of them was gone. And here you see the Rotary Club wheel, and the whole thing is in a circle for the compass. and here is a square, and here is a square. So it says square and compass together with the rotary wheel, because with a compass you can make a circle. And as the Earls of Amherst were so proud of this endeavor of the first Baron Geoffrey Amherst, liberating the Americas from those uncivilized savages, just like the Nazi Lebensraum, eliminating all the subhumans, Untermensch, that the Amherst nobility proudly put 2 Indians on their coat of arms, celebrating Pharaoh's splendid victory over the indigenous adversary. Therefore, you can see the smallpox blankets covering the entire crest with 4 balls of the concept of 4, meaning us, the people, being dominated by them, who are depicted through the concept of 3, and 3 spears, and a red underground for the Per-Tasser, red house of Pharaoh, where the entire nobility originates from. So here you see the blankets hanging over the whole thing. Here's the concept of 4. The people are dominated, through like exterminating them. And here, of course, this is vertically, like reminding us, or them, a reference to the vertical rule, with a red underground for the Per-Tasser, and the concept of 3, which is them, the side of a pyramid, which is a triangle, which is them, the hierarchy of the pyramid. And the concept of 4 is the base of a pyramid, all the way down, that's us. And of those 100 million Indians, there were only 2 left, like, sort of, like, in a manner of speaking. And those 1 or 2 that are left, they are chained, so there's no more danger, they're enchained. Here it says something with virtue. I can't read this one here. It doesn't matter, it's always the same thing. Charming chaps, aren't they? And here, Lord Amherst had succeeded his uncle Geoffrey Amherst, the first Baron. I hope they're not like 100 or 200. Well, probably now there are like 10,000 of them, descendants. That was the first one. So we already know that one. The Geoffrey Amherst, there he is. The first Baron. What a hero, eh? In 1797, the latter, so this one here, the latter was a distinguished military commander. Wow. Best known as one of the victors of the French and Indian War. Wow, what a hero. In 1776, that was when America was made, he was raised to the peerage of Great Britain as Baron Amherst of Holmesdale in the county of Kent, with normal remainder to heirs male of his body. Yo, what a hero. All the endeavors, how he fought the Indians and he almost got killed, what a fantastic hero, That's how he's depicted in the coat of arms, and this is how he goes into history. Aristocratic coat of arms are like reading comics, telling the whole story of and by our masters. Here you can see the hero of the story, the first Baron of Amherst, and his mercenary Swiss, doing this to the Indians. Boom, pow, poof, splash, by using just 1 blanket. And this is about Pontiac War. They probably got their name from the car. And here he is, look. The policies of General Geoffrey Amherst, a British hero, it says, of the 7 Years' War, helped to provoke Pontiac's War. The British hero, can you believe it? Look, the British hero has a octagon, and he has a pharaonic sash in red for the Per-Tasser, the red house of Pharaoh of Lower Egypt, where they all come from. And here's thinking, oh, the Swiss had a good idea with that blanket. That's what he's thinking, Here's some more images here. Here they are. A massacre on the women. The Swiss squaw killer, like General Custer. So a little bit more down. Fort Pitt. Hey Brad, what are you doing there? Okay. The British hero with a sash. So this is about the siege of Fort Pitt. Now look, Fort Pitt is a star fort, you see that? It's the one I filmed in France, a whole star city. So this is probably where they got the idea of the Pentagon from. Look at this, it's a pentagon. And still about the affair, about the biological warfare and the blankets. So this is here about Amherst letters. Letters between Amherst and the Swiss bouquet. General Amherst, July 8th. Could it not be contrived to send the smallpox amongst those disaffected tribes of Indians? Well, you can read it yourself. These are all letters which are still there, you know. And a letter from July 19th, etc. And here, when Bouquet wrote to Écuyer, now who's Écuyer? That's a French name, just like Bouquet. So I guess that's Bouquet, from the French-speaking part of Swaziland. That's Écuyer, he's also Swiss. It's full of Swiss. And I couldn't find it about the Fort Pitt. No Écuyer, so I had to go and look somewhere else. Look, there he is, Captain Simeon Écuyer, Swiss by birth and commander of the British garrison at Fort Pitt. He was even the commander of Fort Pitt, so how come he's not in the Wikipedia about Fort Pitt? So it's full of Swiss, all the officers, you know. It's all octagon, it's the aristocracy and the Swiss. And the higher officers, they are all, it's the nobility, and then the colonels and the captains, they are Swiss, working for the nobility. And apparently Écuyer, the Swiss, he said he couldn't sleep anymore because of the Indians. Not because they gave they did the genocide. No, that's after that was no problem sleeping. Right? Hey, Swissy. The first Baron of Amherst, the Swiss Colonel Henri Bouquet, and the Swiss Captain Écuyer. Again, another example of how the Swiss and the nobility work together, just as in organizing World War II, explained in my video here on the same channel called The Nobility World Wars, or the Order of the Garter, with on one side the lion for the nobility and on the other side the unicorn for the Templars and their Swiss base, an image referring to their union, and explained in this video here. So here, this is referring to the Knights Templars and their Swiss base. This is referring to the nobility, the lion with the crown. In this video here, same channel, here's the title. And I remind you of yet some more Swiss mass murderers on Indians and Americans in the US of A, like the Swiss squaw killer General Custer in this video here on the channel Gatse, and here's the channel Swiss US General Custer, the squaw killer who Swiss cheesed Native American children in Indian genocide. I made it 7 years ago. Another Swiss genocider. and who is probably having a lot of offspring in America today, probably working in the CIA and on all key positions. There are 1 million of them today, Swiss Americans. Or the Swiss captain Henry Wirth, concentration camp commander on American soil, torturing and murdering many white Americans, whom you can see here lying on top of each other, like seeing Auschwitz. So the Swiss here, together with the nobility, doing the same thing on white Americans this time, just as they did on Indians, Koreans, Vietnamese, Muslims and whatnot. Swissy will never stop their endless genocides in union with Pharaoh's nobility. I made this also 7 years ago on my channel Gatsenfratz. Here's the title: Swiss Death Camps in USA Helvetica Americana, and the St. Louis Killer Cops from Switzerland. And here, this video I made 8 years ago, still on Gatsenfratz. US POWs and MIAs, Swiss internees in Switzerland's concentration camps. So the Swiss, they had special concentration camps, 3 of them, during the Second World War, to torture and murder American pilots. In Vaux-Villarmoz, Les Diablerets, and there was another one, but you can see it in the video. I like facts, and the facts show us that America has always practiced biological warfare on many peoples, wherever they go. So a crime profiler would say that to a 99% certainty, the US are behind Pharaoh's bug, which is going at the moment. And as America is being ruled by the Swiss Octagon and Pharaoh's worldwide nobility, I'm 100% sure that the Swiss Novartis company are behind the Wu flu. And Novartis has a bug lab in China, in the Wu flu area. So this video is here on my channel Homeland Security, and here's the title: Swiss Novartis files I can't pronounce this connection Switzerland's human guinea pigs virus experiments. And they did guinea pigs experiments on Polish homeless with 25 people died. And here you can read it. Yeah, and this is the typical words being used in this part of the world. During the Korean War from 1950 to 1953, the US dropped infected insects over North Korea and China.
It's a 16 buff in the dark every